recording. Cool. All right. So we've launched Unreal. We're gonna go to games, and for the kind of first chapter in the book here, we're gonna go to first person and load in that default. So here we go. All right. Then we've got basically all the default settings, right? So we're doing a blueprint based thing with maximum quality. The ray tracing you can turn on or off, but desktop, and then with starter content. So we're gonna create our project here, and when it launches up, I forgot to give it a name, so we're working with my project 2 today, I guess. But we can change that up. So here we are. So in the Unreal, the first person template, right? We've got a bunch of different cubes and kind of a baseline level design here. And there's a whole bunch of different stuff here. So kind of getting an orientation to the way things are set up. On the left, we've got kind of our actors panel. And so here we can put together, we can just drag in a bunch of different types of objects and things like that. So they've got boxes, they've got planes, they've got cylinders, all these different things that you can kind of start with, different sorts of lighting, different effects, geometry. So this is kind of like how you can build up your world in a way. And y'all have kind of worked through this before, but we'll be working with like dropping a cylinder into the map as well. As you're kind of looking around at this world, you can kind of change your perspective on it, go to different places, things like that, and just kind of like play around with like moving these elements and all that. There's kind of up at the top, there's a couple of different things. So one is your saving. Source control is an interesting thing because here you can actually connect into like a GitHub repository or something like that. There's different sorts of modes for editing things. There's a content browser where you can see down here at the bottom where you've got your blueprints, your maps, and your overview here, which is kind of a tutorial video. We've got a file structure up here down with this content browser, and so we're going to end up looking inside of this, where are we? First person blueprint here. On the right hand side, you've got your world outline, which has kind of how you organize everything. So here they've got like a map. So we've got our arena, which contains all the objects for building out like the walls and the floor and things like that. And then we've got another thing, which is the cubes. And one thing that's kind of cool is like if you click on these eyes, right, you can kind of see just the elements within that particular thing. So if you turn off the cubes, you got that. Like if you turn off the lighting sources, you can see everything gets dark. There's like a global light source, but that's kind of about it. So that's kind of a cool way to kind of like isolate different elements of what you're doing. And then if you click on like a particular cube, right, you get a details list down here. And this details list like shows you all of the different things with it. There's kind of interesting things too. So like, there's a lot of different components of the game engine that are built in, right? So if you wanted to, you could actually like disable the physics simulation on a particular block, and it'll do that. When you're inside of this whole thing, there'll be like kind of warning messages here. So lighting needs to be rebuilt, one unbuilt object. And so in order to do that, you click the build, and then it will start building. And sometimes it'll show up with a error at first, and that's because it's down here in the bottom right. It's like doing that build of the lighting. So as soon as the lighting's built, then that error will clear, and now we have our world. You can hit play, to launch it inside of the viewport, and then you click in here, and you can kind of like walk around. So it's WASD for your controls. It's kind of a default like first-person shooter. We've got the physics, right? So you can already like tackle boxes off the top, right? Do different things like that, and play around in this little world. To get out of the game mode, you hit escape, and then it kind of brings you back to your editor mode. So those are kind of the basics of the interaction thing. So what we're going to do first is just kind of redo that target mapping, right, from the beginning. And so just kind of doing that real quick. So first thing we're going to do is grab a shape. Going to grab a cylinder here and drag it into your world. You can use these kind of like grabber arms, right, to like move them around. And if you want to do something that's not just moving them, like let's say we want to make it bigger, what you do is you change between your different edit modes. So the first one is like select and translate, which allows you to kind of basically just grab these objects. There's a rotation mode that's keybound to E. You can use that to kind of like wheel around and like change the orientation of the thing. I'm actually not sure how that interacts with the physics. So I'm actually going to put it sideways just to see. And one of the coolest things I think about like game dev, right, is like you're not sure of something, right? So you can actually like pull it up and then kind of see what it does, right? And so here it's actually kind of balanced on that fulcrum. And we haven't turned physics on for this cylinder we just placed in yet, so it's just kind of there, which is weird. But yeah, and if we want to make it bigger, we can switch to the last mode, which is the scale mode. You can kind of see the key bindings there. So there's W for translate, E for select and rotate, and R for scale. Those are all like right in a row on your keyboard, right? So you can really quickly kind of like switch your mode by using your keyboard. All right, so let's turn physics on for this thing. So I'm going to double click on it to grab that, and then I'm going to turn physics on. And you do that in this right details, right? So we got the cylinder there, and I'm going to hit play. And now whenever I hit play, the cylinder has fallen down, and now we can kind of blast it around, and it does cool things, right? So yeah, so that's kind of the first thing here, right, is that you want to have your objects kind of react to the world around you. All right. So the next kind of thing to do is kind of to give it like a little bit more emphasis and stuff on like what it is this actual object is. Here in this world outliner, right, it's got a name. You can kind of like long click on it to change it. We're going to change this to be our cylinder target. And that kind of works there. There's kind of a lot of different like types of content here. So there's like the starter content folder that has like tons of other different kinds of things, right? So we've got like walls and doors and things like that. Like there's a lot of cool objects that you can just explore and drop in there, and I'd kind of encourage you to look at that. One thing that's kind of cool here too is like, you know, they got all these different materials and things like that. So if you wanted to get kind of more creative with it, right, you can click on objects like within your arena and start adding like different textures and materials to them. One way you can do that is by using this drop down to do it. I think you can also do things like drag and drop it into the element, and it will now all of a sudden we're playing on a wood floor here, which is better in some ways, right? And so you can do different kinds of things there. We could have like a whole ocean here, right? And there's different properties for each of these different sorts of things. I'm gonna put this on a base here of this back to the well, I don't know. I'm gonna put a cobblestone on. So now we've got a different world. We hit play, and now we've got kind of these textures and stuff to kind of differentiate from these cubes. Yeah. So one of the things that's kind of cool though with all this content stuff, right, is that you can create your own custom things, right? And so that's what we're going to do to make the red cylinder. You click on this material, and now we've got this box coming up. I'm going to call this red material. And really, so much of what's going on inside of Unreal is this kind of asset generation sort of stuff, right? So like, as you're like learning more and more about like how to develop and how to like put together these worlds, like you're going to be building up these like collections of materials and stuff that you want for your objects and things like that. So this view, kind of like all the blueprint stuff, right? You've got all these different properties, and on the left-hand side, you have kind of like your pins for, on the left hand, it's input pins, and on the right hand, it's output. So this is kind of an object. It's like all left-hand pins. And so you can drag and drop here, and then you get all kinds of cool different ways to come up with different colors and objects and things like that, right? So we've got this thing. There's kind of a way you can do like colors here, but the way that we do this here is we're going to do a new vector parameter here, which gives us a for tuple for the element. So that's going to be your red, green, blue alpha. You double click inside the box. You end up with this. Here you're doing your kind of saturation, right? So you've got an HSV slider here. And then here we've got our value, right? So we're going to make this a very, very red, right? So once you get that kind of like vector parameter here, you can drag drop the input to the base color. And now you've got this very red ball. There's other aspects of it too, like metallic and roughness and all kinds of different things about like how you want it to be. Emissive color is kind of interesting too, because it like makes it like kind of glow in a way. But we're going to look at scalar parameters for metallicness and roughness. So we create this thing here. We're going to give it a name here, metallic. And we're going to change our default value here to 0.1. We're going to drag it into metallic, and that'll kind of change how it reacts to the light, as you can see here with the light source. It's a little bit shinier, right? So then we go in here and we add another scalar parameter. We'll call this one roughness. Bring that up maybe to 0.3. Drag and drop that to the actual thing there, and now you've got kind of more texture along the ball, right? So yeah, so there it is. And once you've got your kind of material created, let's see here, you can save it, and we'll go into our game world here. We'll just drag and drop that onto our cube there, and we'll hit play. And so now we can go over here, and there's our little cylinder. Kind of reflects the light due to its metallic properties, interacts with the shade and interest and all kinds of stuff, right? So so that's kind of the start of materials and things like that. There's like way more complicated things you can do with those materials, and I think that like part of the assignment 4 stuff, if y'all were playing around with like the icy material and things like that, was to kind of get used to like what those sorts of things did to the element. So that's kind of fun. I think what we're gonna do now is kind of get into like how do we do the programming, and I think this is just review, right? Because this is like the first week of class, but like also it's been a while, so hopefully this is like a good refresher.
It is.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add a new blueprint, right? And so we're going to have this object selected here. And then over here, there's kind of a lot of different ways to create a blueprint, right? So like one way you could do it is like over here in the add import on content browser, you can do a blueprint from there. But since we already have kind of an object here, we want to do this blueprint add script on this cylinder target. And what clicking on the button over here does is it lets you like use the thing that you've got as a template for the things that you're going to create, right? So we're going to create a new one here. We'll just call it cylinder target blueprint. That's totally fine. And we'll do select. And there's our little cylinder, right? So inside this world, we've got the viewport, which is just kind of like a blank view of the cylinder, just in space. So you got that. There's a construction script here. So this is kind of an interesting thing where when you get more into like making games and stuff, this is run when the object is created. And so like if you want certain things to happen, like when the cylinder is spawned, like it makes like some sort of like glowing animation or something, you would do that inside this constructions script, and that would let you like add in basically like spawn time effects. You can also use it to kind of like initialize it with different parameters, like based on the world state, right? So there's like an example later where like you shoot the thing twice, it does that. Well, you could like do something like initialize it with a random number of hit points, and then do something with that, and then like scale the object by the number of hit points or something, to create like different sizes of cylinders. And then there's the event graph, which is our really kind of where all the magic happens, right? So when you start out with a new blueprint, it kind of gives like three default kind of events. So one is the begin play thing. This is the actor overlap, and this is the event tick. So there's like three different sorts of things here, and those kind of matter. Because we want to just like start from scratch, we're just going to clear that out, right? So so we want to make the texture change whenever we click stuff, and I think probably be helpful if, are these computers, they've got it on here, right?
I think we tried one time.
I think they updated it.
They do, yeah. I think they have to be like updated or something. 'Cause we
Yeah.
couldn't get in the first time.
Well, I guess the better question is like, does everybody, I know there's some laptops too, so does everybody have access to
Yeah.
like follow along?
I'll log in.
Okay. Cool. Before we get to building it up too much. So I guess the quick steps to it be, you know, I'll write them up real quick. Cool. And if you're already have been following along and stuff, like just mess around with the world, you know, play around with the meshes, like figure out, you know, just make it cool. I think there's a lot of like exploration that can be done while we're kind of getting everyone plugged in. Yeah, what's up? Totally. Yeah. There might be some like minor differences, but we can figure them out. I'll probably do the Unreal 5 if I end up doing stuff for next semester. So yeah, yeah, totally fine. Do the UNM machines have 4 or 5?
This one has 5.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Go ahead. Download 5 as well. Huh. The internet on campus is pretty good.
It's not bad.
Huh.
It's not bad.
Yeah. Cool.
It's opening right now, but I'm pretty sure I got it.
Very cool. Cool. I uploaded all my photo library into like Adobe's ecosystem, and then now I'm like, crap, I need a local backup. So, anyways,
This is what the first person blueprint in UE5 looks like.
oh, that's better. Very cool.
Let's see, you guys,
Hmm.
it's cool.
So that one doesn't have a gun on it?
Yeah. There might be an option for it.
Huh. All right.
It looks nicer.
Okay. Yeah, so we've got the stuff together. We're on 5. I'm installing 5. Actually, that's a good question. So how many are working on 5 and how many are working on 4?
I started on 4, but like,
Yeah.
if when I go home later and I play around with 5, I'm sure I can figure it out.
Yeah. The interface looks a lot different. I
That's
haven't.
the book probably, I think the book goes on before.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and stick with 4, and I'll need to explore what the differences are between 4 and 5.
Pretty significant.
Yeah. Before going there, at least that way we can just like get to them. So if you're if you're in the launcher and you go to Unreal Engine and then go to the library tab, should have there. So if you go to Unreal Engine on the left,
Where, oh, I see.
yeah, and then there's a library tab at the top.
Oh, okay.
And then to the right of engine versions, you click a little plus, and then it'll give you a new tile, and then you can go down and pick which version. Yeah. Is it letting you do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's not.
Okay.
You need an admin password and stuff to download.
Okay.
That's fine.
Cool.
Actually, wait. Yeah, it's fine. I'll just play around with it.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay.
The good news is I've already done all what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
I have projects saved for all this stuff at home.
Yeah. Cool. Should I pick it back up with doing the red target?
Yeah.
Are y'all ready to? I mean, you are, but is everyone else ready to move on? Okay, cool. All right, so we got to do a couple of different things here to get our cube ready, right? So the first thing we're gonna do is go back in here, go to our cylinder, add the simulate physics, and then also add the collision, right? So we want to have down here in the collision, we want the collision presets. We got the actor here, and what is it? We've got block all dynamic. So there we go. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is create some variables in our blueprint. So I'm going to go back into the blueprint here. We've got that. And then over here on the left under my blueprint, we've got variables. And so here we're going to create two different kinds of variables. One is just going to be a scalar for speed. So we'll go to speed and we'll give this a type of float, which will give us just kind of a nice little number. There's different types of numbers. So there's integers and floats. Integers are like decimals. And floats are integers are like whole numbers, and floats have decimals in them. Floats are usually what we're going to use in the game world, but for some things like hit points, right? We might have that as an integer, so we're dealing with kind of like whole numbers at all points. And then we're also going to want to make sure on all the variables that we have instance editable checked, so that we've got the ability to manipulate that. Then we'll add a second variable. This one we'll call it direction, and we'll have the type on this be a vector, right? Which is what we need for our basically the vector of what our direction is, right? We're gonna make it instance editable there, and there we go. Then what we're going to need to do after we create these things is to compile the blueprint, and then that allows us to set up default values for those vectors. We're going to set the direction of the blueprint to 10 on the y variable, and then on the speed we're going to set it to 200 here. All right. So then we end up with our kind of blueprint variables, right? So the next thing we're going to need to do is to kind of normalize the direction variable. So we want to know like what direction we're going in, but we want it to be kind of like not crazy huge. And really we're just interested in kind of the angle. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop in this direction variable. We're going to grab the output pin, drop it down, and we're going to search for normalize. And here we go. There we go. And now we have a normalization function that will give us that sort of normalized vector for that. As you're going through, it's usually pretty helpful to create comments. So if you if you select two different things here, you can right click on it and click create comment from selection. And so now we can do the documentation for that. If you hover over something too, like you can get these little bubbles for putting a comment on just one little piece of the element there. Okay. So the other thing, and this is kind of what I was talking about during the lecture on the graphics, right? Is that we kind of have to like figure out what are like references to sync things to. So we're going to have the speed, and we're going to normalize the speed with the amount of time that's going on to calculate how much motion. So we get our little speed bubble here, and we're going to search for the get world delta seconds. So that'll determine kind of like how long it's taken to do. And then what we want to do is we want to multiply these two things together. So we're going to drag here. We're going to do search for an asterisk. Then we're going to get a float and float there. And there we go. Right? So this is the speed relative to how many seconds have elapsed between the ticks here. All right. So now we need to like figure out kind of like where are we in this whole situation. So where's the actual like character in the map? So now we've got kind of a direction vector and a speed vector, and we want to change where the person is, right? So what we're going to do here first is to get where the current position. And what we do that is we get world transform, which is down here at the bottom under utilities transformation, right? And this is a little different than the book, and I was playing around with this for quite a while. But our whenever we drag that get world transform, it tags it to a static mesh component, which is the object itself. If you get rid of that, it kind of, in my experience, it's been breaking the code. So we do have this other element here of the component here. So we do that, and this now has the component to world transform for the static mesh. And what we're going to want to do now is to do a break transform that splits out the values from this world transform. So here we drag this out and we look up break transform. So the break transform gives us our location, our rotation, and our scale, which are each of the three different like views in Unreal. So what we're going to do now is to take these different things and add the speed and direction to our current location to move the object. So the first thing that we've got to do is now we've got our normalized direction vector. We've got our speed vector here. We've got to combine those together into a single not so normalized thing that actually conveys the speed with it. So what we're going to do here is add another multiplication node. So we're going to search for an asterisk. Now we're going to have a vector times a float, right, from our speed. There we go. And that's going to give us a vector out. What we want to do now is to add the speed and the direction to the current location. So we're going to take this, we're going to do this, we're going to look up plus. Now we're going to do a vector plus a vector. Drag and drop that into here, and boom. Now you've got your vector with the momentum going, and we want to make a transformation from all of that. So make transform, boom. That gives us our new location, and then we want to keep the rotation and the scale of the object the same. So now we've got kind of the whole thing here. We get our normalized direction, multiply it by the speed, add that to the previous location. Now we get a new location with our rotation and our scale staying the same. So with all of this different stuff, we can kind of group together the stuff for documentation purposes, right? So I'm going to create a comment on this whole section, which is get the direction. Essentially, this is getting the velocity. Calculate the velocity, and then here, this whole thing, we're going to put a comment block around all that, and this is going to be create a new location vector. And then here, we're going to want to update this location. So here we've now calculated how to move a particular thing given a particular speed and direction. And now we want to create it so that it updates this on every tick. So we're going to search for our event tick, which is just, the kind of game clock, right? And then we want to do a set actor transform, which is going to change the position of our person here. We're going to do this to the new transform. We're going to do our event tick here onto call this function, and we're going to compile, and there we go. So now we've got this kind of thing. Now we've got our cube. It's kind of stuck against the wall. But now it's kind of floating. So it's going to keep floating every time until it hits the wall. Basically, we haven't done any sort of like flipping or anything. So here it's moving. Yeah. Then it hugs the wall every single time. So we're going to take that. We're going to go back into our blueprint editor, and we want it to not just go into the wall, right? So we want it to kind of alternate where it's going so that it moves back and forth. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to connect this this actor transform out to flip directions. So we're gonna attach it to a delay node to determine like how often we want it to flip directions. We'll set it at something like 5 seconds. Then we'll tie that into a flip-flop node that will let us modulate the behavior. And so here we can drag this out. We want to change the direction here. So we had it set where it was going one way at a speed of 10. We move this here. We click set direction. Then we've got here we want to change this to 10. We're going to drag out the direction again. We're going to do a set direction. We're going to make it so that on the opposite times it goes the opposite direction, right? And so we got that, and then we wire things up. So B to there, A to there, and there we go. And then I'm gonna create a comment here, so flip directions. Okay. We hit play, go into the world. We've got this kind of cool interaction between the thing and the physics here. And now it's floating away and kind of rolling back and forth. You can play around with these numbers and stuff too. So like, you know, the example here was to do that, but what if you have kind of weirdnesses with your direction? So like, what if we start playing with the z-axis? Well, now we've got this kind of basically the same behavior because the physics is turned on, but if we turned it off, it would, yeah, it's trying to bounce upward. So it kind of floats along, and then it's kind of like possessed as it's trying to go up, but like can't quite counteract gravity. So yeah, lots of cool ways to get behavior. Cool. And that's kind of a, you know, fairly involved blueprint there. So hopefully totally review, right?
Yeah.
If you're playing with Unreal 5, has anybody been able to get it to work?
No, I mean, tonight when I
Yeah.
get home, I'm sure I gotta mess around with it. Like I might even try to get to the event graph if I do.
Yeah. Cool.